Welcome back to CyberChat, Dr. Angelo. Can you please explain further the internal factors? Ano pa ang nakikita nyo sa kasalukuyan, lalo na ngayong pandemic, where everyone is online? Ang mga kulang at maaaring gawin sa pagpapalakas ng value system na ating mga kabataan po.
Basically, when you talk about cyber crimes, although ang nakikita lang natin ay yung kanyang external manifestations, but the reality is it is a more internal phenomenon. No? It's basically an abnormality, a psychological, spiritual abnormality. Pag sinabi kasi abnormality from the prefix AB, right? Ab, meaning to say away from, okay? Away from three things, away from others, okay? Second would be away from self. And the third one is away from God. Rehabilitating someone who is committing a cybercrime or cyberbullying, I would say that it's not just a matter of information campaign. It's not just a matter of law enforcement. I think it's not just a matter of external scare campaign or maybe just education or even whether digitally or non-digitally, okay? I see that there's a frequent gap in the area of internal. It's usually missing or unaddressed for the most part, and because it's the most difficult part, is the heart transformation.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with Dr. Angelo. Sa amin naman po sa DICT Cybersecurity Bureau, we recognize the important role of parents. Hence, as early as 2018, we have been doing the digital parenting program. There was a missing component. We recognize that the missing component is the involvement of the greatest influencer sa buhay po ng isang kabataan, which is the parents. And that's what brought about the digital parenting program.
Dr. Angelo, how do you think family, school, and society can help the individual?
Well, these are usually the major institutions that would have to be sources, okay, of influence. Especially sa area na, I have a couple of things na palagay ko, this institution of family, institution of school, institution of society, and also the church, okay, na pwede nilang bigyan ng attention whenever there would be an attempt or some program in terms of addressing this problem. One, dahil internal siya, something to do with life values. Okay, I think there's a need for reinforced or more enhanced program in this area of imparting appropriate and healthy life values. The second one has something to do with life skills. Okay, so yung mga life skills na yon would be coming out of the impartation of life values. So kasi kapag wala yung proper life values, mahirapan sa life skills na tinatawag. But of course, there's this problem of dealing with a society that is filled with unhealthy elements, okay? Because merong mga nagsasabi that we live in a sick society. A sick society filled with corruption, filled with addiction, filled with violence, filled with different types of spiritual, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. So meron tayong mga problema. No? That's why all the more important that we deal with the internal, because even if society is sick, or even if there is corruption in society, there would be enough supplies within the person to be able to directly deal with problems like that outside of themselves.
Sa mga nagdaang episodes kung saan ay nakasama natin si Police Major Michael Vertudazo, he gave emphasis on the importance of involving the schools in the campaign against OSEC and other forms of cybercrimes against children. Major Michael, Ano pong mga challenges ang nakikita ninyo sa pagpapalaganap ng kaalaman on cyber threats against children and the youth and online internet safety tips para sa mga kabataan?
Ang school po ay kabilang na ang elementary at high school ay napakalawak na institusyon na kung saan ang ating kapulisan ay lalo-lalo na yung mga WCPDs natin ay kinakailangan magdoble o triple ng kanilang mga awareness campaign lalo na sa mga hotspot areas at sa mga liblib na bayan para lamang ipalaganap ang kaalaman tungkol sa online sexual exploitation of children, online child safety ng ating mga kabataan. Sa totoo lang po, maliit lang na bahagi ng paaralan ang nabibigyan ng ganitong klaseng cyber awareness ng ating mga kapulisan. Sa pamamagitan ng kooperasyon ng DepEd, ito ay malaking tulong upang maipaabot ng DepEd at ng kapulisan sa buong mag-aaral ang dagdag na kaalaman tungkol sa online sexual exploitation of children and online child safety at maiwasan ang anumang uri ng cybercrimes na kung saan mga kabataan ang naging biktima. Ito din po ay magbibigay daan para or upang madali naming matukoy ang mga kabataan na na-identify namin na mga biktima ng online sexual exploitation at upang agarang mabigyan ng karampatang evaluation at assessment ng ating mga social workers.
Yes, Major Michael. Napakaganda pong isipin na ang ating pong kapulisan ay talagang active din po sa pag-address ng challenge na ito ngayon sa ating lipunan.
Principal Christina, ma'am, nung pong guesting nyo ay nakwento nyo po ang proseso sa inyong paaralan in handling cyberbullying cases ayon sa RA 10627 at RA 10175. Nabanggit nyo din po noon ang ilang challenges in the actual implementation of certain procedures. Maaari po bang banggitin natin ang ilan dito at kung paano ito maaaring tugunan ng DepEd o ng pamahalaan?
Isa po sa mga naging problema natin ay yung how do we identify yung may mga ano po kasi may mga bata na who would not be using their name. They have what we call yung phishing or yung mga posers. So that's very difficult to address kasi hindi naman namin ma-identify kung sino. So basically isang problema dyan yung technical kasi wala naman kaming know-how on how to verify kung sino yung gumawa nun. Madami tayong mga estudyante na nabubuli, hindi din naman sila minsan nakakapag-report. Another would be yun pong ating ang ating mga guidance counselors are not really licensed. Kumbaga, guidance teacher lang ang meron tayo ngayon sa DepEd. In Caloocan, I think we have 3 or 4 licensed guidance counselors. Considering that we have 86 schools in Caloocan. Kailangan din ng intensive training for our guidance counselors, guidance teachers, kasi kulang na kulang po when it comes to cyberbullying. And yun pong dissemination campaign to our students and the parents. Since we have the new normal, we should be able to adapt and formulate and contextualize social media and online child safeguarding guidelines na dapat po maibigay natin sa ating mga magulang, ganoon na rin po sa ating mga guro at sa ating mga estudyante. Yung possibility na magkaroon kami ng pare-parehong disciplinary administrative action. Maganda po sana if we have one rule na pwede natin i-adopt as one para hindi po kami iba-iba when it comes to giving disciplinary action to our students. Yan po.
I can very well understand na mayroong problema sa technical, which is a developmental logistic. That's the external part, right? And that needs to be addressed. Pero ang pinakamahirap talaga rito would be the formation of the children. Remember, cyberbullying, cybercrime is just a symptom of a deeper problem. Cyberbullying, cybercrime is just a smaller focus within a larger picture. In other words, pwede kang hindi mag-focus sa cyberbullying. Mag-focus ka doon sa total life context of the children, life context of the parents, life context of the teachers and the guidance counselors and the other advisors na meron yung mga bata in order to address yung problem na to. Okay? So we may have the best of external developmental logistics. We may have the best resources, law enforcement, information campaign. We may have the best environment, but that can only go so far. The real, more permanent change would be coming from inside. And that can happen only when we have the right focus. Ang focus na yon is not on the symptom, but on the deeper problem of the character of the person. Ngayon, kulang na kulang tayo sa guidance counselors, kulang na kulang tayo sa mga maaari sa mga teachers din. Importante na magkaroon ng focus din doon sa area ng training of the teachers, training of the guidance counselors, and also the parents, di ba? Kung yung mga parents, pwede ba natin lisensyahan yan para maging parents? Okay. Okay. Oo, di ba? Dapat yata kung may lisensya yung mga di ba, doktor, mga abogado, mga pulis, dapat lisensyahan din yung mga magulang. Okay. Okay.
Napakaganda po ng sinabi niyo, Dr. Angelo. Actually, medyo na-miss po ako sa licensure ng parents. So, you were actually discussing the root cause. And tunay nga po na this is just a symptom. It's not the main reason. Yung cyberbullying is just a symptom. And parang sa konteksto po ng pinagdadaanan nating pandemya ngayon, which is COVID, hindi po, unless you see that the fever really is caused by a deeper issue, which is the virus, i-address mo lang yung fever, i-address mo lang yung kung anong nakikita mong sintomas. But without recognizing that it's actually coming from a virus or kung ano man yung nagkakos ng fever na yun, you will not take the proper measures to address yung pong problema. No? So that was a very good insight, Dr. Angelo. Thank you for that po. Ngayon po, kasama din po natin si Mr. Ace Diloy from Stairway Foundation. Since we are now discussing yung mga child protection programs, Sir Ace, can you share with us DepEd's child protection policy that mandates schools to conduct child protection education? And also, I believe Stairways Foundation also has collaboration with DepEd to implement this.
You know, even before, even without a law, DepEd has mandated already schools to conduct child protection education. In fact, in Southeast Asia, for example, our Department of Education was one of the first to mandate schools to have child protection policies. And this was way back in 2012. So yun yung Department Order number 40, series of 2012, which is the DepEd Child Protection Policy. And aside from elaborating the prohibitions in schools in terms of school-based violence against students or learners, meron din doon section mandating schools to conduct child protection education, integrate this into the everyday sessions in schools or lessons in schools. Tapos in 2015, DepEd came out with the DO number 55 or the anti-bullying implementing rules and regulation. 2007, we've been doing, Stairway Foundation, we've been doing community and school-based awareness safety sessions in schools, no? And as a small organization, what we've realized doing those kinds of online safety sessions in schools and communities ay hindi siya ganun ka-sustainable. Kasi let's face it, if it's only one NGO or even if it's 10 NGOs, it's almost impossible to reach every school, every learner in the Philippines. And thus, our realization was that online safety awareness and education should really focus on institutionalization, meaning regardless of the organization working with the school, child protection education, whether it's for offline or online protection, should be embedded into the system. It should not be a one-off thing. And then also based on international research, the evidence really suggests na malaki syempre yung impact ng internet safety education if it's not taken as a standalone effort, but rather it's embedded into the curriculum, it's embedded into the lessons, and it's not discussed in isolation because many of the risky behaviors or many of the protective behaviors that we want to develop with children online are also mirrored in the offline protective behaviors of children. So dapat walang dichotomy sa discussion and dapat hindi siya standalone. Dapat it's embedded within the educational system. As an outsider from the institution pero working closely with DepEd, we've seen several gaps, several reasons why it's difficult to implement. Dalawa yung nakita namin na pinaka-main gaps. The first one is, syempre, it's specialized education on child protection and thus it needs learning resources. And unfortunately, during that time, 2012, 2015, walang learning resources on child protection education in schools. And the second one is in terms of capacity of school personnel, yung teaching personnel, because this issue is so divorced from teachers' realities that they might be able to read the content of any learning resource, but to really fully understand the issue and build up the courage to discuss this because this is a sensitive issue takes specialized training. So dalawa, no? Learning resources and the need to capacitate teaching personnel on this issue. In 2015, we finally developed a series of lesson plans on cyber safety, which doesn't only discuss protective behavior online, but is anchored on building children's protective behavior holistically. And aside from the cyber safe lesson plans, we also develop learning videos. And all of these are geared towards building up children's protective behavior. Spearheaded by DepEd, early 2019, DepEd Central Office organized a series of regional training of trainers on cyber safety, making these trainers understand ano yung issue ng online safety, how is it connected to offline violence, how to use the learning resources, and how to conduct these in a classroom setting.
Napag-uusapan natin ang ilan sa mga challenges for parents and children and teachers and students to coexist in this digital age and prevent all forms of cyber threats and cyber crimes.
Indeed, very timely, relevant at napakahalaga. Lalo na ngayon na sa panahon ng pandemya, almost all of us are online, especially children, and nag-start na rin ang ating online classes. Magbabalik po kami, huwag po kayong aalis.